And so, from my background, I came from a very toxic masculine background. I worked in local IBEW 827. I worked for Verizon. It was mostly men. I got drunk all the time. We were horrible people. And one of the things I've learned as I've gotten into the activist community and spoken with feminists and understand how to improve myself, it's when to shut the fuck up, get off the stage, and let the ladies have it. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Wine, Women, and Revolution, Red Wine with Lark Lowe and Melissa Tomlinson from Bats. They're going to have a discussion without me, and I look forward to enjoying it. Thanks.
Before we start the next panel, though, I did want to go back to it's hard to raise money when you are independent. But luckily, we have these mugs that we're selling here. They're designed by me and printed by Brian in his own house. Right. So, these are not printed in a sweatshop anywhere. We're selling them tonight. If you want to pick one up, either talk to me or Brian. And they're very useful. You can cause quite a stir at work when you're drinking capitalist tears. But, show your disdain and your rebel nature, and, it really helps us out every mug that we can sell. And now I'd like to invite Lark to come up here. And Melissa, are you good? Are you ready? You have to unmute yourself. Can I go over to Brian so you can have a mic too?
Yeah.
Lark.
Let me go.
What's your last name, Lark?
Lark Lowe.
Lowe, L-O-W?
No. L-O.
L-O? Oh, simple, okay.
Simple. Very simple. Am I going to be right here? This one my mic is?
Yeah, that's your mic.
Okay. I didn't realize you were sitting like this. I didn't realize Brian was sitting like this.
So, obviously, the three of us, when we get together, we want to talk about socialism, essentially, because that's really mainly all we ever want to talk about. So we all came together and prepared a few questions that we'll throw them to different people. Whoever wants to jump in at any point in time, feel free to. So the first question, in our discussion about socialism and eco-socialism was, in the U.S., everyone feels like they're a temporarily embarrassed millionaire instead of a working class person. So how do you think that impacts our politics and our society? Since I believe this was one of Lark's questions, I'm going to start with you.
I'm supposed to answer. Okay, I think that one of the challenges with the United States is kind of like this division within the working class. If you are collecting a check, if someone can make it so that you're homeless tomorrow, you're working class. There's kind of like this idea, I have a college degree, I have a PhD, I have this, I have that, so therefore I am better than someone else. So that kind of, to me, this idea, the idea of middle class is the idea that, it's kind of like that thing that people want to hold on to. And I think that's what is kind of keeps us from having certain policies. Like, I've worked really hard for this house and for this, car, and I don't want to share it with anyone else. And I could, one day I could be rich, and I could, so you have this kind of very selfish, and I don't know if it's selfish, but puritanical idea, especially within the middle classes in regards to, in regards to like socialism or ideas such as socialism. It's kind of like, every time I bring it up, they're like, well, I worked hard for what I have, and I don't want to share. I'm like, but rich, like super 1% rich people, they don't work hard for what they have, and they're not sharing. You seem to have no problem with that. Right. So, I don't know what you have to say about that. I want to keep talking.
Well, I think there's this very bizarre thing of everybody's like, I know the system's rigged in favor of the wealthy. That's why it's going to be so awesome when I get wealthy and everything's rigged in my favor. Yeah. Like, it's this total dream world.
And you're never going to get wealthy. I think that's the whole idea. It's like this whole idea, if I just work harder, if I just got another degree, if I just did this one more thing, then I could be in this, this upper echelon. And it's not happening. It's getting worse. I have to tell people are like really talking kind of loud. One thing I think that I tell people, which is really interesting, is that New Jersey is very rare. This middle class, this kind of like idealist world that you have here, this does not exist in Los Angeles. This does not exist in New York. the whole idea of white privilege, that's going away. Rich people don't need middle class people anymore. And I think the quicker and the sooner people figure that out, the better off we'll be able to work together. Because I think that this, I just feel like this New Jersey, this is like your last holdout. This does not exist anywhere else. You can't have a house, have kids, and do relatively well. Like, this doesn't happen. In LA, I have friends that have PhDs who are professors and live in one-bedroom apartments with their kid and their wife, and they can't divorce because they can't afford to. These are white people. So I'm just saying, that's coming for you if you don't figure it out.
All right. How about you, Melissa? Do you have anything to chime in on this subject with?
So as you were both speaking, I thought about even deeper, more than just the still believing in the middle class, but it goes beyond that, and it's still believing in the American dream, right? If I work hard, I'll succeed, and I'll be able to provide what is something better for my kids, right? I'll enable them and give them the foundation, and they'll be able to improve upon what I did. And just like she said, specifically in New Jersey, but it really is in other areas of the country. People don't understand that that's not going to happen anymore. And until we realize that whole American dream from day one even, it was false. It was fed to us. It was not how we should be existing as human beings to be working towards just providing better for our own children. That we should have been thinking about what was good for the common public and for all the people overall, and working to build that. That we'll see what we really need to see. And these embarrassed millionaires, that phrase really cracks me up, because it made me think of, yes, someday I'm going to be rich, and I slipped up a little, so I'm just not quite there yet. And we got to realize that it's not our fault. We have to start feeding ourselves with the stress of not being able to hold up to that American dream in that process.
Definitely. I got to keep moving because we've got a lot of questions we got to get through in 15 minutes here, so I'm going to keep running right through them here. So as a panel of people who identify as women here, do you think that capitalism and sexism is tied together? So I guess since this is my question, I'm going to start off with this one, that absolutely, that capitalism is all about controlling and dividing. And without the control of, reproductive labor is something that's being controlled under capitalism. And that, separating this kind of labor is women's labor, so it's undervalued. Things like education or, general service labor is being considered women's labor, and therefore didn't have a value that going out into, putting on your hat and going to the 9-to-5 job did. So I definitely think that capitalism and sexism are tied together 100%, and that as we work towards dismantling capitalism, we'll be working towards dismantling racism, sexism, all the isms. Melissa, do you have anything?
This question got me thinking a lot about marketing, right? Capitalism, marketing is to sell products to us and to make us feel like we need something. And the marketing that is geared towards feminist type products, right, and feeding into that gender roles, and breaking all of those isms into lines, and just like you said, separating and sorting us. I believe 100% what you said is true.
All right, and I think the thing about, I really agree with what you said, Heather, in regards to, there's this kind of like idea, if it's a woman's job, then we don't have to pay you money. But I mean, it's not so much as like it's a woman's job. It's kind of like, what tools can we use to not pay people? Oh, can we use their gender? Can we use their race? I mean, I like to think of the fact that in regards to gender and oppression in the United States, how it also ties to race. I thought about like during World War II and the kind of, the aid that was given to women whose husbands had died. It was the idea that you would stay home and take care of your children. And as soon as Black women and Indigenous women got access to that money, it was kind of like, oh, you have to work. You have to work. You can't just have it. You have to work. And I always know that the reason why the United States does not have universal child care, the reason why the United States doesn't have, maternity leave and paternity leave is because this idea is like, wow, the United States can use essentially Black people to essentially oppress you in all kinds of ways. Like, what if someone who is lazy and they're Black gets free healthcare or free childcare? We can't let that happen. So I would rather make myself suffer. I mean, it's like that basic. And that's why I think it's just so like bizarre, like how you can like use race and gender just to kind of like just shut down all kinds of things.
Yeah, they're just tools used by capitalists.
Like, well, you're not a man and you have children, so we have to make you suffer. And it's like it's just an accepted idea.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. So the next question, also I believe is one of Lark's questions of how realistic do you feel socialism is in the United States?
I remember I was telling you this. I said, hey, if Trump can be president, we can have socialism. I mean, this is. That's what I always think. Like you think of it like kind of like this was so like okay. It clearly like I kind of saw this was happening. I was like, you guys are not taking this dude seriously. This is actually gonna happen. Et cetera, et cetera. He's going to win in 2020. I can already see it right now because they're already setting it up. It is. He's going to win in 2020 because it's kind of people are not taking this seriously. So, but the thing is this: I think we need to go right to the left. I mean, this whole like let's be safe, let's be careful. I think this idea of being you're not going to inspire people. The thing is that 60% of people are not going out there. 60% of people are not going out there to vote. What we need to do is inspire that 60%. I don't really care about these other people because clearly they don't know what the hell they're doing. Look what happened. And I mean, they're like, oh, well, the thing is, yes, they did suppress the vote. You're right. They did suppress the vote. They did do a lot of things. You have Citizens United. You have all this stuff. That's true. But that wouldn't have been able to happen if it wasn't that close. It was close enough that they could do this. So for me, I feel like what we need to do is inspire the other. I don't think that those people are apathetic. I think they're just not inspired. Like, what difference is my life? It's kind of like I come to and to you look at people who are economically oppressed. How much better were they, or worse were they under Trump or Obama? Like, were they? I mean, was it that much different? Really? Was it that much different? So it's kind of like that's why people are kind of like not inspired. Like people who are like middle class, upper middle class, are kind of like, oh my stuff. But you know what? Most people don't have stuff, so they don't care. So there you go. Like
I'm all right, Melissa.
Too much.
Do you want to have anything for this one?
She definitely has a lot more optimism than I have. I know. Our country was founded on capitalism. They came over, they settled the land because they wanted products, right? They wanted land to grow and make money, and all the structures that we have in place were built and established to perpetuate that. It's not going to happen until we have a revolution, and at this point I'm going to call for total anarchy.
The only problem with that, I think, is this. We do not... I was an anarchist at one point, but the reason why I moved away from that was because I felt as if if there was a revolution, we would move farther to the right. The left is not ready. They're not ready. If we had an all-out revolution, we're going to end up in an even worse situation because I mean, I'm just looking at it. Like I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying I had like a deep thought. Like if we rised up and destroyed this whole place, what would happen? I'm like, oh, I would be dead. I don't really want to be dead right now.
I think I definitely go more towards the optimistic route personally. Maybe that's just my nature, but it's everything's impossible until it isn't impossible anymore. We were talking about that on the way up, and I was talking to Henry, who, hasn't really been in the socialist or communist organizing thing, and I'm like, start describing what a communist or socialist society might look like, and he's like, well, sign me up for that. You know? Like, I'll take that right now. So, you know, if you start describing this society without using the scary language, or if we can take back some of the scary language, I mean, most people would want what we're talking about here. It would be silly not to want what we're talking about. So that's where my hope comes from, that it can be viable in the United States. And I'm going to skip to one large last question because I'm going to start with this one. Is, can socialists work within the Democratic Party? My answer will be as short and simple. Hell no. Melissa?
Hell no.
You know, that's what, you know, I would say no, because it's, the only thing they have for us right now is we're not Trump. I mean, if they're going to be, you're going to have something else for us. Are you going to have, the whole, like, job situation, like, the lack of jobs, the low pay, this whole, like, I mean, we're literally, like, wage slaves. Many of us are literal wage slaves at this point. Like, I don't understand why with all of this technology that we have, and why are we still working 40 hours a week in order to live? Why are we working like 10 hours a week and like making like $80 an hour? I mean, to me, I just don't understand, like, you know, when we had Democratic president, when we had, well, you know, we've always had some challenges in regards to the House and all stuff, but I don't understand why we are people first. Why are we so corporations first? Why are we so about exploitation? In regards to the Democratic Party, I'm waiting for them to be fair to the people, becoming the party of the people that they claim that they are. I'm sorry.
All right, so this is next Melissa's question, which is very deep, and I'm going to definitely make her go first on this one.
Definitely.
What fundamental understanding do you feel we need to agree upon as a society to make eco-socialism a reality?
So there's really a simple answer to this that we don't have an understanding to, in my opinion, in this country, is that all human life has the same value.
That's well, I think it's definitely that we're all the same. We're all so connected, and we all want the same things. And the people that are trying to separate us and keep us from uniting together have a reason for it. And that we need to realize that they're using it to manipulate you. And once you take your power back, then that just falls away.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's, to me, that's actually an excellent answer. I mean, to me, cooperation, us like working together, that's, what needs to, I mean, I forgot the question, but but cooperation, working together, and just, not this, we need a system change, not like this individual change. It's kind of like,
yes.
I don't think that we're going to change our society with a workshop. You know what I mean? Like your workshop is not gonna we're not gonna have an anti-racist or anti-sexist that workshop. I mean, those are really interesting, but we need to have fundamental institutional changes. I'm trying to save stuff because I want to answer your one of your questions.
Wait, which one? I wanted to do Melissa's next again.
Okay, go ahead.
The education question.
Oh, good.
So we obviously have to defer to Melissa on that one. What do you see as the role of education in developing a society that's grounded in eco-socialism?
So it's funny. I posed this answer to Socialist Educators Alliance. I wanted to see what their responses were, and we're not seeing the interconnectedness of our oppressive systems with what it's doing to the environment, which eco-socialism is supposed to bring about. So in order to do this, the education world right now needs to change, and it needs to become a system that is founded and based upon developing an understanding of the biomes and the destruction that we're doing, along with an analysis of those oppressive systems. It's not going to be until both of them happen, and they happen interconnectedly in discussion, that we're going to develop an eco-socialist society.
All right, I think we probably need to wrap up soon. So I'm not going to get to the last couple of questions, but you guys have been an amazing panel, and I'm so happy to call both of you comrades.